Kia ora koutou. This is a really quick video for Eric going over the range notation used in the textbook for the reciprocal trig functions. So Eric sent me this in and just asked me to talk about what all the stuff down here means about the range. So what we've got here is the graph of y equals sec x. Now sec is equal to 1 over cosine of x. So we can see that it won't be defined where cosine of x is equal to 0. And that's why we've got those asymptotes in the graph, right? So I think Eric's all good with that. But what he's asking about is how do we write down what the range is, and what is the range? Well, the range is the values that the function can take on. In other words, what are the possible y values? And you can see in here that y can equal 1 or above, right? And y can equal -1 or below. And that's all this stuff here is saying. And there are two different kinds of notation being used here. The first one is using interval notation, right? So if I want to say that a number is between 5 and 7, including those values, and it's all real numbers, I'm going to use these square brackets, and on a number line that would look like this. And you probably did this a few years ago, right? So coloring in the number line, that's the interval between 5 and 7. If I don't want to include 5, but I do want to, let's make it that we do want to include 7, then that interval would be an open circle on 5 up to a closed circle on 7. So that's what's going on here with that notation. It's saying we do want to include 1, right? It is possible to include 1, and it's possible to include -1. And this U sign here means the union of two sets, right? So the first part of my interval is the bottom bit, or this bit here, which is from -infinity up to -1. And then the second bit is from 1 up to infinity. So that's a very nice, concise way to write that. But as I said, you don't have to be confident with this, right? And then the second way is a bit more wordy, and it's this bit down here. And this says in words, the y values that I can have are y can be less than or equal to -1 and any real number, right? So not a complex number. So that's the first bit. And then the second bit for this bit here is to say, or the union sign again, y can be any number greater than or equal to 1, and y has to be real. So that's all. Or we could just write out y can be any number that is less than or equal to -1, or greater than or equal to 1 and a real number, and that's fine. So what you really have to be focused on with these reciprocal trig graphs are the following. You have to be confident for Cambridge with drawing those graphs, and doing some pretty simple transformations is the most I've ever seen. But just as importantly, you need to be able to solve equations with them in, right? So for example, sec of x is equal to 5. We're going to do some work with that later on. And the other thing we have to be able to do with these functions is to do identities problems with them. And most of you are already in the middle of that in the later parts of chapter 5 of the old Delta book. So Eric, thanks for sending in your question. I'm sure there are other people who are also confused by that. Please keep the questions coming in, and I will try and just slowly chug out some videos for work solutions over the weekend.